The essential dynamics of sustainable economic development are innovation and employment creation. Employment creation has a positive influence on poverty alleviation at all levels. Definitely, we need this urgent intervention in Africa. Creating quality jobs is key to poverty reduction, increased social cohesion, and enhanced growth. Employment creation should therefore be a priority in the global development program. The proper role of government is then to make available an enabling environment for a healthy economic growth. Environments that encourage skills and business development, largely based on sustainability principles. As said by President George Bush, a nation that can feed its people is a nation more secure. Security, stability, education, and so on, we need in Africa. And like Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I quote, life is most persistent, and the urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Our keynote speaker this morning is one of the rare men in Africa who is very busy doing many things for others. We are indeed highly honored to have Professor John Trimble in this conference, although he's the organizer of this conference. Now I read his biography. Professor John Trimble is currently the flagship professor at the Tuani University of Technology with an appointment in industrial engineering. Before that, he served 2 years as a full-time professor in the industrial engineering department at the Trimble University of Technology. He has worked in industry for 12 years and as an academic for over 30 years. He has served as HOD and Dean of ICT. He has taught at universities in Rwanda, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and the USA. He has published extensively in engineering and computer science. Prof. Trimble is the founding director of the International Network on Appropriate Technology and has coordinated 8 international conferences on appropriate technology, all of them in Africa, dating back to 2004. He holds BSc and MS degrees in engineering, a PhD in industrial and system engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology, and a master's in computer science from Stanford University, all from the USA. For accepting at this time.
Good morning. Can you hear? Okay. Can you hear? Can you hear me and can you see my screen?
Yes, Prof, I can hear you, and I also can see your screen as well.
Okay, I'm getting ready to start my presentation. Okay. Good morning, participants of our 9th International Conference on Appropriate Technology. While I'm a stand-in as the keynote speaker, I'm pleased to be able to have this opportunity to speak to everyone at the conference and to give you more details about what we're engaged in. I'm going to cover four topics. One, I'm going to talk about the history of our International Network on Appropriate Technology and our conferences. And then I'm going to give an overview of exactly what is appropriate technology before discussing appropriate technology as a movement. And then to entertain questions and answers and discussions. And I want this to be really the focus of the hour. So to start with, our conferences and in a sense, our movement started gaining ground in 2004 when we had our first international conference on appropriate technology. And that was hosted at the National University of Science and Technology in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. At the time, I was a Fulbright professor in the computer science department there, and we're able to organize a number of academics engaged there and also to get practical action, whose headquarters in Southern Africa is located in Zimbabwe, to be an active player in the first conference. So the theme was a knowledge management approach to the development of appropriate technology, sustainable land-based projects. And this was key because, as many of you know, at the beginning of the 21st century, Zimbabwe engaged on a land reclamation project. So there was a lot of land-based projects that needed to be addressed. So appropriate technology was really key, and both the university and the government were key on us moving forward this international conference. The second conference, we decided at the first conference that we would be a biennial conference activity. So the second conference was held 2 years later, again, sponsored by NUST and in Bulawayo. And that year, the theme was sharing the knowledge from research and practice in appropriate technology, health-related projects. So you see, we moved from the issue of land to now looking at health. So we're focusing on basic needs. This was really the thrust that we started out with and we remain with in terms of how we are addressing appropriate technology. Now, in both cases at this point, we covered the range of topics with regards to appropriate technology, but we just had a particular focus area, and this was also how we selected our particular keynote speakers, because the keynote speaker addressed a particular area in terms of our focus. So from there, the third conference 2 years later took place in Kigali. And this was when I was the Dean of ICT at Umatara Polytechnic University in Nyagatare, Rwanda. But we were able to get the support from the Ministry of Science and Technology and from a range of universities across Rwanda. So it was hosted in Kigali, and part of it was even there at the main university in Kigali. The Kigali Institute of Science and Technology, KIST. And the theme then was promoting research and practice in appropriate technology, energy solutions in the era of climate change. So this, now you see we focused into a third area under appropriate technology, energy. And during this conference, we made 2 trips that were included in the conference. One was to the largest solar facility in that region, right outside of Kigali. And the other one was to Lake Kivu, where there was a methane extraction operation in Lake Kivu that we got to see. So we actually not only dealt with the conference in terms of the academic side, but looked at the practical work that was taking place, in this case in Rwanda. And we had the strong support from the government that year. It was televised nationally, and we had a significant financial contribution from the Ministry of Science and Technology to make this conference possible. The fourth conference, we then moved to West Africa, and this was our first conference in West Africa. It was held in Accra, Ghana, and it was teamed up with a workshop on appropriate, socially relevant computing that I organized there at a Pan-African University in Accra. So this was in this case, we had the support of both the Technical University in Kumasi and also the main university in Legon in terms of the University of Ghana. And the theme that year was appropriate technology for water and sanitation solutions for a thirsty planet. And we had a keynote speaker from the Ministry of Water and Sanitation there in Ghana. So you see now we've shifted to water and sanitation as a major theme. So we've gone from land to health to energy to an environment to water and sanitation over the years. But at each conference, covering the range of topics that fall within the broader spectrum of appropriate technology. So the following year was when we came to Victoria for the first time. And this was in 2012. We headed at the St. George's Hotel and Conference Center, and we were strongly supported by DST, but we had co-sponsorship from TUT, University of Victoria, as well as the University of Johannesburg. And this was the first time that we actually organized a appropriate technology fair. In that case, we just had it on one day, the final day, and we had a large room, a large hall where we had different displays. And it's also the first year we had a hackathon, and that focused mainly with ICT students and went over a 48-hour period and was actually hosted on the campus of University of Victoria. And that was spearheaded by our INAT tech person, Jumbe Po. And the focus that year was on technology policy, which was interesting because we had a keynote speaker from TIA here in South Africa. The following conference was held in Kenya. And actually at our fifth ICAT in Pretoria, the participants decided that they wanted to move the next conference to Nairobi, Kenya, and that was held in 2014 with the theme Appropriate Technology for the 21st Century, Technology Innovation to Empower Africa. As you can see by this point, all of our conferences have taken place in Africa, and we're focusing in terms of appropriate technology in the broader global South, and we've had representations from Kenya in a number of years, including keynote speakers, from India for a number of years, including keynote speakers, and also from the Caribbean, as well as other countries. But the focus has been around Africa because we realize that the countries most in need for advancement are over 40 of those that are on the list are in Africa. So this is our focus. The following year, we returned to Zimbabwe. In all of our previous conferences, since the first two started in Zimbabwe, we've had a strong academic representation, not only from the National University of Science and Technology, but from other universities in Zimbabwe. So this year, they wanted to have it, even though NUST in Bulawayo was the host university, the committee decided they wanted to have it in Victoria Falls. So that was an interestingly different experience. That year, the theme was sustainable technology to empower communities, bridging theory with practice. And the tech fair was very interesting because that year it focused on a set of different high school presentations from different high schools that came up to Victoria Falls and set up a tech fair based on technology projects that they were engaged in that all were within the realm of appropriate technology. So we're really excited about our youth involvement that year. The following year, we went to Benin, back to West Africa, and this was an exciting experience because this was the first time we went to a primarily French-speaking country. This was spearheaded by one of our INAT members, founding members, Duran, who is now a senior lecturer at WITS. And because of his contacts there, particularly with the Songhai Center, we were able to host it there. And the theme was endogenous knowledge, appropriate technology and innovation, linking the past and the future. And this was particularly significant because it was held at the Songhai Center, and this was the first time we hosted our conference in an environment that was actually engaged and so totally immersed in appropriate technology. Hopefully, you had the opportunity to listen to Father Godfrey, who is the founder of the Songhai Center, and he gave a detailed explanation of the synergy that exists within that center that is just phenomenal. So we were very excited about not only connecting with the Songhai Center, but continuing our work. And you'll see even at this conference, there have been presentations, not only by Father Godfrey, but others that linked in the work being done at the Songhai Center. So this takes us to today, this week, and that we're now hosting back in Pretoria, South Africa, and the theme is centered around technology exchange and employment creation for community empowerment, cross-pollinating innovative models. Now, some people argue, well, wow, that's really a more complex theme, but we're trying to cover a number of things. First, we decided on technology exchange because we said technology transfer just sounds like you're transferring from the global north to the south, or transferring from some Western developed country to underdeveloped country. But we really appreciate the indigenous knowledge systems that exist not only here in South Africa, but in the global South in general, so that we see it's important to see this as an exchange, not a simple transfer. And you'll note that on the program, we have an endogenous systems, knowledge systems workshop scheduled for later today. Technology exchange, employment creation. So it's also, and we even have the theme today centered around employment creation, because this is a central part of appropriate technology. It has to be about employment creation. This is a key thing that even links into community empowerment. Employed people are more empowered. Communities that are in control of their resources are more empowered. So cross-pollinating innovative models, we focus constantly on innovation, and we're so fortunate to have an innovation studies Sarsi professor as part of our team here, at not only at TUT, but as a member of our international founding committee, as well as the director of innovation studies at Wits University, who is Durant Simone. So this gives you a background of our ICATs, but this is just part of the organizing work that we're doing with regards to our international network on appropriate technology. We view the work that we're doing in INET in these 4 levels. One centers around organizing conferences, primarily the biennial international conference, which takes a lot of work of our whole international team, but also we've had a number of regional, local conferences and presentations linking in the work that we do in INET. This has primarily been done by our academic members. Secondly, the development of our appropriate technology website and portal. Right now, it just exists as a website, but the idea behind this effort is we want to extend it to a more powerful portal that will give you access to a range of projects and information with regarding to appropriate technology. We'll link in with other agencies and actually applications that can be pull up that link into appropriate technology. So this is the ambition along this line, and this is why we need to really grow our network. The third is the support and development of appropriate technology projects. We have been raising funds so that we can actually support additional projects. And to date, we have funded 2 projects. One is a water delivery project in the rural area that was coordinated by one of our INET members in Kenya, that he actually raised funds and we contributed to, that was organized by a group of women in a rural area in Kenya. And that was done in 2017. And then at our conference, last conference in 2018, we had several presentations by women's collectives and selected a set of women who were who organized a goat raising project in Benin, and that was our second one. Now we're looking to expand this not only in terms of submissions for projects, but also to look at initiatives from our members and our different individuals connected with INAT. The fourth area is as you see from our 2012 conference where we emphasized technology policy, and you can see on our website we have an appropriate technology declaration, is that we really see it's important to impact technology policy however possible. And this is why we even had the workshop addressing this and looking in the direction of developing an appropriate technology manifesto. So these are the areas of work that we're looking at, the 4 areas of work of INAT. So now I wanted to focus on exactly what is appropriate technology. It means different things to different people, but for us, we like to focus, first of all, on technology that empowers people and communities. And I think if you then look at what technologies empower people and communities, then all of these other things sort of fall in place. First of all, it has to be about meeting basic needs, because people can't be empowered if your basic needs aren't met. If you don't have food, if you don't have good shelter, if you don't have clean water, if you don't have sanitation facilities, your basic needs aren't met, then it's hard for you to address broader issues. And so this is something that's just basic that we see. So next, that in the process, you must be culturally sensitive. Often, you have a paternal perspective that's come from developed countries, that people who may even have sincere efforts to do things, but they are not culturally sensitive in terms of what actually are the dynamics of communities. So your technology must be culturally sensitive. Secondly, it has to maintain ecological balance. This is important. There's been, for instance, in terms of a number of development studies approaches where the agenda has been just to swiftly move to industrialization and not take into account the ecological balance. This is an error. We've seen this, and this is why there are various issues now that are open in terms of the ecological imbalance that we face across the planet. So appropriate technology must address ecological balance. And then third, foster this economic sustainability. It can't be an issue of using a technology that's good for today, but we know in a few years that the resource is going to be depleted, or the plan in terms of agricultural development, which increases the agricultural productivity in a certain area, means that the soil is going to be depleted in a few years and it won't be economically sustainable. So any appropriate technology has to address this issue of economic sustainability. And these two, ecological balance, economic sustainability, are very much linked to our understanding that we have to take care of Mother Earth. The last item I have on this list is you must place priority on the most disadvantaged populations. And this relates to our focus in Africa. We realize that there are more disadvantaged populations in terms of nation states in Africa than any other continent, and that this is the population, if we're talking about creating global justice, that we had to focus in on the most disadvantaged populations, not only when we look at certain nation states, but even within any nation state, when we look at the most disadvantaged populations, we have to look at women and children. We have to look at those areas in terms of particularly disadvantaged groups that exist within any particular region or country. So that sums up a kind of an overview of how we see appropriate technology definition. But then I wanted to shift to this whole notion of appropriate technology movement. It was mentioned earlier, E.F. Schumacher's 1973 book, Small is Beautiful, where he emphasize certain types of technology. This is really a key book that people look at in terms of the whole birth of the appropriate technology movement. The movement that came out of that book actually is now emerged into a global network called Practical Action. They have, as I mentioned earlier, they have their Southern Africa headquarters in Harare. Their Eastern Africa headquarters is in Nairobi, Kenya, and their main headquarters is in the UK, where E.F. Schumacher initially resided. A second key book is Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. It was in 1965, where she really spoke to what was happening in terms of the environment. And this has been an iconic book to the environmental movement. One that's particularly close to me, and because it's based a lot on some of the work I've done, is The Limits to Growth, which really spelled out in 1972 how we're dealing with a closed system with regards to Mother Earth, and how in this process we had to be concerned about how we deal with industrialization, the realities of population growth, and balancing that with industrialization and the results of pollutants that come out of that. So this whole examination about how we have to go about being concerned with how we advance technologically in this closed system was highlighted in Limits to Growth, which was commissioned by the Club of Rome, which is an international economic political organization, by a number and was conducted. The study was conducted, and the book was written by these four authors. And subsequent to that, there was a follow-up book 10 years later, and the following 10 years in 1992, and again a fourth time in 2002 by the one surviving author, Jorgen Randers. So I sort of see this as a iconic type of approach, and while in INAT we've been spearheading the idea of developing this appropriate technology manifesto, where we would sort of serve as the commissioning organization and solicit from our network, such as those of you in the audience, to conduct a study and to contribute to this overall appropriate technology manifesto. But we see all this as what has been the background and what is the current state of what we call the appropriate technology movement. I want to end with this last slide because I'm emphasizing with this as appropriate technology movement activism, because I think that we cannot just view ourselves as academics, even though many of us on the line are even academics as lecturers and professors or students, but we have to see ourselves as activists. So this slide sort of positions us as appropriate technology movement, surrounded by a number of other movements. Environmental justice movement is clearly linked to the work that we're talking about doing. The peace and justice movement, clearly, when we talk about appropriate technology, we highlight the fact that funds need to be moved away from such efforts that exist in terms of the military funding that goes into science and technology. So this is where the peace and justice movement links in with our work. Anti-imperialism movement. A lot of what is being done now in terms of what is pushed on us in terms of how to approach technology is the aftermath of colonialism and the current state of imperialism. So there's a broader anti-imperialist movement that those of us in science and technology, in particular the appropriate technology movement, which is looking at fostering a positive approach to science and technology, should see the linkage. Certainly the Pan-African movement, because we realize that the weakness that exists in terms of the fact that we are in Africa sitting with over 40 of the poorest countries is because of the divide that exists in Africa. So a broader approach in terms of linking Africa together in terms of Pan-Africanism is key. I linked here this last one, which is a smaller effort, but key, is this divest in fossil fuels that many may not know about. There's a broader emerging movement to divest in fossil fuels, and they're calling on universities, agencies, other organizations to divest. There's been a large church organization that has divested. There's several universities in the US and in Europe that have divested from fossil fuels. So this is an active link to what we're talking about in terms of appropriate technology. So all of you, I would like you to not only view yourselves as participants in a conference that is largely academic here, but to view yourselves within the broader context of activism and seize the opportunity to be part of the broader appropriate technology movement. With that, I want to thank you. I'm going to put this last slide up because what we need to do is we need to have all participants to evaluate what we've been doing so far at the conference. And we have a evaluation form that you can just click on this link or type in this number, and we're going to actually also send it out to all of our registered participants. But I would ask you, if you're viewing this slide, if you could at least just jot down that first number here. They're all on the jotform.com, and use this opportunity that when you get a break this morning to just go in and let us know how you feel about these first 3 days. We'll also be posting this again, but this is an opportunity for you to give us direct feedback. We'll know how to improve the efforts in terms of our international conferences on appropriate technology. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to the moderator and facilitator, and hopefully we can get some discussion, questions about what I've said, comments in terms of that. Thank you.
Dr. Trimble, my name is Tori Livingston. I reside in Bowie, Maryland. I want to thank you for your vision, for your efforts. This is absolutely wonderful. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, just an awesome vision that you are, and an implementation of innovation and ideas. It's just wonderful, and I definitely want to be a part of what you're doing. My question to you is, on your website, are you going to have any sections where you capture and have, for instance, I developed a methodology called the change broker or transformation broker. And in that, what I've noticed in the US, various organizations, and specifically in the African American community, do lots of great work everywhere. And we have the national everything, the National Society of Black Engineers, chemical engineers, doctors, and so on and so forth. But everybody's operating in sort of a silo, and nothing, and so you're not impacting the larger community because you're operating in little silos and not sharing, the work on a large scale, on a more holistic scale. And so does your website plan to offer any sort of collaborative features where individual African countries or what have you can come together and document what they have done already, and then also set up a template for another country to be able to just take what they've done and tweak it, look at the major pain points, look at the positive things that happen, and just tweak it, that model, and be able to replicate it quickly. I prescribe to a project management methodology called Agile, where
I think we've lost her.
I think I got most of what Tori was saying, and that I think you're right on point. This is why, if you remember the point I said that we wanted to extend our website to a web portal, because what you're talking about to me is what we commonly would call a web portal, where you would have those links to up to the various other organizations, you would be able to put up the best practices, not only from different organizations, but from different countries. Because I think you're absolutely on point that this is the kind of thing we need. We're doing good work and different organizations are doing good work, but people aren't aware of it except for a small circle. An example was that the work that is going on with the Songhai Center that we only found out because Duran happened to be from Benin, where it was hosted a couple of years ago, and we were wow, we were just in awe when we went there. But the scope of it in terms of other people being aware is limited. So we want to serve in that function with our website to be able to extend it to a portal. Limitations are at this point people power. We need more IT types that can actually go in and maintain and make those kind of connections to do the knowledge elicitation from different agencies and organizations to put those links on, and then in turn to get these organizations to link in with our site because you're engaged in a lot of this type of online work. You know that the key is you put my link on, I put your link on my site, and everybody's linked together, and you get more traffic that way, and people more aware of what we're doing. So definitely, we appreciate working with you in terms of that effort. Thank you.
Okay. I think we also have some questions from Amira. I think she's asking about the manifesto. Can you just quickly address that, Prof?
This is an area, it started with our appropriate technology declaration. So if you go to the website, you'll see it's a button, you click on that, and it's basically a one-pager. It kind of summarizes, this is how we think we should be going in terms of appropriate technology. Several years ago, we recognized that we needed to expand this into the broader concept of a manifesto. So we had a workshop yesterday discussing that where we had different presenters. And what we're trying to do is to extend this notion. I'd like to see, and that's why I used the example of Limits to Growth, which was commissioned by the Club of Rome to a group at MIT, and they had like 5 different authors that researched this issue of where we're going in terms of being in a limited environment here, and came up with different computer models related to that. We don't necessarily have to come up with that, but the idea is that if INAT views itself as sort of a umbrella organization that can solicit people who are engaged, like Amir Osman is engaged in this whole arena of appropriate architecture and looking at this city space from an appropriate perspective. If we engage different people in different arenas to look at this in terms of how do we package this in terms of a broader address to the public, in terms of appropriate technology, and call it a appropriate technology manifesto that we can publish in the broadest audience, like those 3 examples I gave with Limits to Growth, Rachel Carson's book, and E.F. Schumacher. They put together pieces and it became globally read, and it had an impact not only on the broader general community, but it had an impact with regards to policy. And this is what we want to do.
Thank you, Prof. And I'd like to read this out. It's a comment from Prof. Amira. She said, this is such an important and significant talk for us who have been immersed in the 9th ICAT planning, not fully appreciating the extent of the impact of the movement and the future possibilities. I'm also echoing that because your presentation has opened a lot of information, and I see that actually the appropriate technology is a very good platform. For me, it's all about people and communities, and that goes together with a lot of people. A lot of people will embrace appropriate technology and probably become members of INAT. I saw that you talked about the disadvantage. When we look at Africa itself, we have about 60% of Africans that are living in the rural areas. And those are the set of people that actually need intervention. Even, most of them, they actually focused on animal resources and agriculture, all those areas, they needed intervention in those areas. And I think appropriate technology is really good for us in Africa. Prof, you are a blessing. You are a blessing in Africa. I'm echoing that. That's my basic opinion. And I see, even if we look into what has been said in America and other places like that, agriculture and all these animal resources, things that is beneficial to the rural Africans, they are really very important to alleviate poverty, create employment, and so on and so forth. And I thank you for your contribution, not only for this conference so far, on the things you have achieved in this country and your dreams and the vision. Thank you very much for that. Yes, thank you for being
Thank you.
So I would like to announce also that Commissioner Sako, Ambassador Sako, that was initially supposed to be the keynote speaker for this morning, he has agreed that she will be speaking tomorrow at the conference. So we will announce the particular time she will be on to speak to us. Commissioner Sako is one woman that is also very, very active, and she has contributed a lot. So it's going to be a very good thing to log on to hear what she has to contribute in this conference. So I would also like to announce further programs for today. Right now, I think by 10:30, you can log on to the Tech Fair, which will be on until 6 p.m. And then by 11 o'clock, we have the parallel sessions. It will be room B and C. And the same time, we'll have a special student session in room A. After lunch, the parallel paper sessions will also start again, both in room B and C, and then the virtual reality workshop will take place from 2 to 4. By 4 o'clock, we will start the Indigenous Knowledge Systems workshop, which will start by 4 to 6. And finally, 4 to 6 also, we will have the poster session. Also, it will start and it will end by 6 p.m. We thank you for listening, and we thank you for being part of this network. Prof. Trimble, we appreciate you, your contribution to Africans. We really appreciate your contribution. Thank you very much for being part of
Thank you very much, Prof. Papula, and we look forward to everyone enjoying the rest of today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Too late.
Prof. Papula?
Yes.
I was just wanting to know, are there any post-mortem sessions that's going to look at what is, what they've done as a collaborative, what issues have come across, and then, study any of the best practices that they've seen throughout the conference? And this is your first online conference, and so just being able to come together and input all of the, the good things that happen, as well as some things that could be improved on. Are they planning to hold that session? And if so, I would like to be involved. That's one of my specialties as far as holding what I call a retrospective and capturing the input from that, so that it can inform us for subsequent or for future conferences.
Okay, I'll leave that to Prof. Trimble to answer. Prof,
I thought he dropped off. I'm sorry.
Actually, there are two parts to that. There are two parts to that. One, tomorrow, if you look at the program and as right before the closing, we have a area called INAT and the way forward. So at that session, we'll basically be giving a capsule of like, 2 minutes from what happened out of each of the workshops in terms of what they're planning to do. And for instance, Brian Stevenson had a whole 2-day workshop on appropriate technology in small scale farming. So we'll sort of
I
report.
actually attended that. It was good.
Yeah. So that's the first part of what of a response to yours. Then the other part is we are having post-conference evaluation. We actually have an external team, and we'd love for you to be part of that team, Tori.
Okay.
That we have people who will be looking at it from, and this is important for us. I mean, we have, as I put up there, the links where we're asking everybody that's participating to give their evaluation, but we have a post-conference team that will actually look at some of the very points you're raising. So we'd love for you to be part of that, Tori.
Awesome. Thank you.
Prof. Popola, sorry, there's Dr. Tori Livingston who want to ask the question as well. Can you go ahead?
I can't hear you. Can you repeat that?
There's Tori Livingston who want to ask a question as well. Can you go ahead?
Yes, please.
Oh no, I've already asked my questions. Thank you so much for
You
being
have? Okay, all right.
attentive. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I see,
Thank you,
your hand
Tori.
up.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think at this time we will just stay and relax until 10:30 when we join the tech fair. Thank you,
Yes,
everyone.
the tech fair is open to join now for anybody that wants to. They can just go to the program and click on the tech fair link, and it will take them to the tech fair where they can view not only the tech fair projects, but there are 2 rooms that also are hosting the posters that will be a formal part of the poster session later in terms of the evaluation. So please enjoy those during our break. Thank you.
Wonderful. Please enjoy those. Thank you.
Hi, John. This is Tori again. Can you send me your contact information?
Tori, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's just the easiest one is Trimble JA at tut.ac.za. That's the university one.
Okay, I'm going to have you repeat that just one time. My mouse had fallen and then I couldn't type it. So Trimble.
Okay. Yes, JA by initials, and then at tut.ac.za or ZA.
Okay. I put my email also in the chat. If you take a look at that, it's blessedtory@easy.com. If you can also send me an email so that I can make sure I have the correct one.
Okay, I'm trying to see where it is. Okay. Okay, I don't see it in chat. Will you send it to me or? don't
I
see it.
did. Let me see what happened.
Okay, let me